Through hiking a long trail, such as the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail, can be really rough on your backpacking gear. So what can you do to take care of your gear once you're out on the trail? Let's talk it through. Hi guys, I'm Audrey. In 2018, I quit my amazing job in Washington, D.C. to through hike the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. It was the most incredible 181 days of my life. I want to talk through some of the ways that you can take care of your gear once you're out on trail. This is sometimes easier said than done, but you want to keep your gear as dry as possible out on trail. This is especially difficult with, say, the AT, where rain is pretty normal. So common, in fact, that kind of the unofficial tagline for the AT is no rain, no pain, no Maine. Doing your best to keep your gear dry especially applies to things like your sleeping bag and your puffy, especially if they're down. A lot of backpackers, especially ultralight backpackers, will use trash compactor bags inside their packs, covering the whole inside, and just stuff everything down in there. I put all of my things into dry bags. However, I think they're both great options. Down is amazing for so many reasons. The warmth to weight ratio is unrivaled. But the thing is, down loses its insulating properties when it gets wet. If you do get your sleeping bag wet, you want to do your best to dry it during the day. Inevitably, your backpack's gonna get wet, your tent's gonna get wet. We know this. In that case, do take the time to stop in the middle of the day if you have a chance, if it's warm enough, if it's dry enough, in order to stop and dry your things so that they don't start growing mildew. If you do, however, find that some of your stuff has started to grow mildew, there are special sprays made for tents and other gear to eliminate the mildew without damaging the fabric of your tent. One other thing that I should mention about keeping your tent dry is that sometimes you will have to reseal the seams on your tent. This is because your tent might start to leak, especially through the rain fly. And so in order to keep water out, if that starts happening, you can get special tent seam sealer, and then that should fix your problem and your tent should stop leaking. Okay, I've talked long enough about keeping your things dry on the trail. So now let's talk a little bit more about your sleeping bag. So sleeping bags tend to have their own special instructions depending on the manufacturer, but there are some common threads that you can keep in mind. If you have a down sleeping bag, if you do wash it, make sure you're following the specific instructions from your manufacturer. That usually means using a side loading washer on the gentle cycle, using special detergent that isn't going to damage the fabric, and you can often use that same method for your puffy. I always use a sleeping bag liner along with my sleeping bag. This has a couple different benefits. Number one, if you're a cold sleeper like me, it adds a few degrees to your sleeping bag. And second, the dirt on you, the sweat, the grime, the body oils, they can all over time damage your sleeping bag. So if you're using a sleeping bag liner, your sleeping bag will last a lot longer and you won't have to wash it as often, which can also be damaging to your sleeping bag. For that same reason, along with personal hygiene, I also had a separate set of camp clothes when I was on trail. It helps protect my sleeping bag because I'm not getting into my sleeping bag with filthy clothes. Another thing that can be damaging to your sleeping bag is keeping it in a compression sack. So even though I use a compression sack while I'm backpacking throughout the day, as soon as I would get to camp every single day, I would immediately set up my tent and take my sleeping bag out of its compression sack. Over time, compressing it will damage the fill and it will lessen its insulating properties. All the buildup of dirt and grime and sweat on your gear can also take its toll over time. So once you're at hostels and hotels, take a moment to clean your gear when you have the chance. Wash your sleeping pad, wash your pack, wash your pots and pans, and wash out your water bottles and your water bladders. And for those things specifically, for the bladders, you can use bleach, you can use vinegar, or I know that you can get specific cleaning kits to get all the nooks and crannies from the companies that actually make those things. For example, Camelback. As far as needing to repair gear on trail, I would say the number one piece of gear that I see that people need to repair is their sleeping pad. Their air sleeping pad will get a hole in it. Most companies that you buy those air sleeping pads from will send a little repair kit along with your sleeping pad when you buy it. But I know that you can also buy repair kits in order to replace that, and I would always recommend bringing one along. If your sleeping pad is leaking and you're not sure where the air is coming from, once you get to a hostel or a hotel that has a bathtub, fill it up with air, put it in the bathtub full of water, and you'll be able to see where it's coming out. I've also very commonly seen people get little holes in their puffies or their raincoats or even their tents. And so a lot of people will bring duct tape, and they'll either put it around their trekking poles or they'll put it around their water bottle so that whenever something breaks, they can use the duct tape to repair it. You can also get this tape called tenacious tape, which is made specifically for these types of repairs. You can use it on your puffy, on your tent, on your rain gear, those types of things. So those are some tips on how to keep your gear in working order when you're out on a long trail. I hope that you found those helpful. If you have any specific tips on how to do so, please leave those in the comments. And if you have any questions about things that I didn't talk about in this video pertaining to how to keep your gear in working order, let us know in the comments as well. If you're interested in more through hiking content, Oboz has more on their channel, and I also have content on my own channel, Audrey Adventures, about hiking, backpacking, and through hiking, especially the Appalachian Trail, since that's the long trail that I've done. So check that out for more information. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later.